welcome back, or welcome. The channel is new, so you've probably never seen me before. A recap, my name is Mo. We're going to talk about budgeting, and today we're going to talk about prepping for the amount of money you're going to need for maternity leave. So I'll get into it. I just had a baby, and I think that a lot of people understand that you're not going to be getting paid when you're on maternity leave. So, yeah, we're going to talk about that. I am exhausted, so if I look tired, it's because I am. I have coffee. We'll try to make it better. I've been up since 4:40 this morning. So, let's just get into it. Okay. Hopefully that gives me the will to live. Okay, so I use Excel for a lot of things just because I don't like making adjustments on paper and scratching things out, erasing things, having a million pieces of paper all over the house. So we're going to use Excel, but you can use a piece of paper and a pen. Excel typically will calculate things for you if you know formulas. I've had a calculator, this TI-84, since I was literally in middle school, so no need to buy anything new, especially if you're in debt. All right, so the first thing that I did when I found out I was pregnant is I was aware that I was going to get paid 60% of my pay or up to $1,000 for 6 weeks. So it was whatever happened first, either 60% of your pay or maximum you were capped out at $1,000 for 6 weeks. That's just what our short-term disability benefit was at my job. The state that I live in does not offer maternity leave payment. So if you are not enrolled in short-term disability, essentially you would just get FMLA, which just means that you can't lose your job. So I documented everything that was an absolute necessity that I would need to pay for on a monthly basis. So I'm going to write down everything that I owe, and then I'll show you exactly what I deemed kind of like things that I could get rid of if needed, if I had to, and then things that were absolute necessities. So we'll just kind of name this whatever we want. I'll rename this sheet Alrighty, so big ticket item, our mortgage. Obviously a necessity, right? $1,259.91. And then in the notes, I'm just going to put when they're due. It doesn't really matter for this activity, but it does kind of for planning. So our mortgage is due on the 1st of the month. This is a bill that I owe now. I did not owe it before, but I'll get into that. Essentially what I'm going to do is I'm just going to detail all of my expenses. So I'll do okay. So I do carry medical debt from the delivery of our child, but I'm doing that on purpose. So my balance, and I'll put this in the notes, my balance is $1,932.85, but the hospital that I delivered at, they allow you to sign up for a payment plan at 0% interest as long as you're not in collection. So as soon as I got the hospital bill back from the delivery of our child, I enrolled in a payment plan. The cool thing is, so because it's medical debt and it's a public institution that I delivered at, not like a private hospital, it may be different in that situation. You don't accrue interest as long as you're not being submitted to collections. At the end of every year, they try to make their balances, they try to collect all of their debt to post for like their end of year finance billing. So they'll offer you a percentage off for paying it in full, which is what happened to me last year. So technically I had saved money through my maternity leave to pay this bill. However, I'm not going to pay it because I know that in December they're going to tell me that I can get like 20 or 30% off my bill for paying it in full. So that's going to save me a few $100s. So that's a key tip that I'm going to talk about later. But that is due on the 8th. All right. So I'm going to include all of our dog food together. Okay, I'm going to include all of our dog food together. We have 2 dogs. They are on Hill Science food, and also I have a almost 13-year-old dog. So his joints hurt. He's on a joint supplement. This is kind of pricey. I understand that, but I also feel like if you feed your animals good food, they tend to have better health. And I don't know, knock on wood, our dogs have been relatively healthy. So this might seem pricey, okay? I'm going to get out my calculator just because I like it. All right, so one of our dogs, I get their food delivered by Chewy. Do that on purpose. I have price matched it at PetSmart or Petco, and it is the same. And then I don't have to go pick it up. It just gets delivered to the house. So we are going to calculate that. So one of our dogs, he is larger. He is a Great Pyrenees mix, so his food is more expensive. His food is about $80.99 a bag, gets delivered once a month. Our other dog, $57.99. And then the joint supplements are $47.95. So altogether for dog food and supplements, it is $186 a month, 93 cents. So the next item is food, human food, food for us. So this is going to seem, well, I guess it depends on what your food budget is. Might seem kind of pricey. So the way that I do, this is this is so exact. Okay. I budget myself $134.23 a week for food, which is, I understand, so oddly specific. And looking back, I can't exactly remember exactly why I chose that set amount. I don't know. But because depending on the month, there's different weeks. So essentially, what I did is I took that budget, $134.23, which saying that out loud is insane. And I multiply that by 52 weeks in a year, and then I divide that by 12 months in a year. So this is so specific. $581.66 is essentially what I give myself a month for food. Turns out to be about $134 a week. That might seem kind of high for 2 people. We do eat all of our food at home, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. But the other thing is that my husband is allergic to whey protein. So he cannot have any dairy, no milk, no butter, no nothing. Well, I am a full fat milk, full fat butter, grass fed girl, okay? So our grocery budget is a little more expensive because I like to have things that he can eat and that he likes. And then I also like things that I can eat and I like. And we also buy organic meat and vegetables and eggs pretty much exclusively. We buy different creamers because he can't have dairy. And again, I love dairy. So yeah, that might seem kind of pricey to some. But that's why that is the way it is, because we have 2 different necessities around here. Okay. All right. The next thing is, I'll call it energy, electric. I budget for $250 a month. I'm going to be honest, sometimes it's higher than that, sometimes it's lower than that, but I was on maternity leave in the summer. I live in the South. It is freaking hot. Okay, so I just went ahead and budgeted for the max that typically we would spend. Like I said, a lot of times it is lower than that, but again, you are trying to project what you're going to need. So I would always say the 2 things about budgeting and projection are you're going to want to budget off of your minimum income, and you're going to want to budget off of what you think the maximum of the bill would be, so that no matter the scenario, you are going to be able to cover it. So we'll do that. All right. I said I was going to give you all of the bills that I have, necessity and not necessity, and then we can talk about things that you can rule out. All right. So this is not a necessity, and I am aware. When I was pregnant, I had horrible SI joint pain, sciatic pain. So yeah, I started getting prenatal massages, and they have carried over since I've had the baby because he is chunky and my back hurts. So I understand that this is not necessary, but we're going to put that in here. And this comes out also on the 8th. This is on the 5th. Alrighty. All right, the next thing, also not a necessity, but something that we do pay for, is dog insurance. So I have one dog who is a total and complete psychopath, and then I have another dog who is just old as Methuselah. I have contemplated getting rid of the insurance for my older dog because it is getting so pricey. So for our younger dog, it's only $46 a month. I will keep it because I had to take him to the emergency vet last year because he choked on a crouton. But, which also sounds psychotic. But anyway, but my older dog, it's $137, which seems honestly not worth it. I need to decide what I'm going to do about that, but we will for now just add them together. So that's $183.47, and that's due on the 14th. All right, we got the good old, wow, Amazon Prime in all her Jeff Bezos glory. Or maybe I'll just call this subscriptions. And that comes out on the 11th. Okay. All right, so this next one is a bi-monthly? No, quarterly. Sorry, comes out quarterly. I'm going to divide this into monthly just because you're looking for your monthly budget. So actually, I only pay this 4 times a year, but I'm going to put this in, we'll call this a utility. And I'm not going to put the date because, again, like I said, it comes out every 3 months. Okay, so we'll just say insurance. We have 3 vehicles, a car trailer, and a boat, which is all covered under our insurance. And we also have umbrella insurance. This might seem kind of pricey, but $266.67. That's due on the 14th of the month. All right, and this next one also not necessity. Dog daycare. All right, so I mentioned that we have one dog who is older and one dog who is psychotic. He's sweet, but he just has a ton of energy, and he's also much younger. He's only 2. So my older dog does not want to play with him nearly as much. We do pay for our younger dog to go to daycare, usually only once or twice a week, to give him the time to be active with other dogs. It helps him with his temperament, his activity level. He is an all around much happier dog when we do that. We usually only pay for him to go like once or twice a week. So this is not an expense that happens every month, usually like every month to month and a half, depending on how many times we take him. We contemplated doing away with this when we had the baby, but because all of our time, because it used to be that when it was just the dogs and us, we would walk them a lot more, play with them a lot more. But then once the baby came, we were exhausted making that adjustment. So we kept the daycare just because it was something for him to be able to get all that energy out. So I understand this is expensive. I spend a lot of money on my dogs. I take care of them. I don't know what to say, but you don't need to do that. Okay, so my phone and my husband's phone are not on the same plan. That's because my job pays for my phone, so they could not be together. They require us to have separate plans because I have to submit an expense report every month. So that's why they're separate. Okay. That's due on the 19th. We have a home security system. That's due on the 20th. All right, the next thing is internet. I don't pay for cable. I do pay for internet. My job does pay for a majority of that in the event that I need to work from home. So I'm going to account for it here. However, I do get reimbursed for most of it. That's on the 24th. Okay. The next is my cell phone, which again, my job does pay for. It is fairly expensive. I do have to have international plans. I work in the medical field. I do occasionally have to call Canada, Mexico, Australia, Puerto Rico, a couple other places. So that's why it's kind of pricey. Again, that does get reimbursed to me. All right. I have a life insurance plan that my dad took out on me when I was born. When he passed away, I took over the payment. I have thought about just cashing it out because I have life insurance through my work. And it's like a term life insurance. It's really not all that great. So this might go away, but for now I'm accounting for it. Also, I got this mug. It says Big Witch Energy, which I feel like is fitting, at Joanne Fabrics. Rest in peace. I miss her. Okay. We'll say, why is it not letting me type? What the heck? Okay, here we go. Wow. Wow. That's due on the 28th. All right, next thing is water and sewer. This is also something that is not paid monthly. It's paid bi-monthly. So I'm not going to put the date here. I've divided it into two because it's paid every other month, but I would need to make sure that I have at least this month on a monthly basis. Okay, I think that's it, but let me just double check. We're going to check our calendar. I'm pretty sure that's it. Okay. So the other thing I did, so essentially you find out you're pregnant. In my situation, I got pregnant in September, technically. I found out I was pregnant in October. And because of that, I was able to kind of set myself up for the next calendar year. So obviously, with a lot of jobs, your HR department has you enroll in benefits typically in like November, December timeframe. My job offers a FSA account where you can have pre-tax money put into the account for use in medical things. I'm going to put this in here. So with my insurance, my deductible was $750, but my out-of-pocket max was $4,000. Okay. So I guess what I'm trying to say here is I knew I was going to be incurring a ton of medical expenses for the next following year. So the likelihood of me hitting my out-of-pocket max is pretty high because I'm going to be having a baby and the American healthcare system is expensive at best. So what I did was I decided how much money I was going to put in my FSA account. So I ended up putting, the thing about the FSA too is that you have to use it all. Because I didn't know if I was going to hit my out-of-pocket max or not, I didn't want to put $4,000 in the FSA account because I cannot carry it over to the next calendar year. So I ended up putting $1,976. I know that sounds kind of crazy, but I get paid every other week. And so it was actually, that doesn't make sense. I don't know. I don't know how it was like $76 a paycheck or something. Okay, so 1,900 and actually maybe I did 2,000. For the purpose of the math, we'll just say 2,000, okay? Because I just want to make it easy. This is more of an example. So what I did was I decided I was going to put $2,000 in my FSA because I knew that I could probably comfortably spend that amount in the year. I was likely going to hit that at least because I knew I was going to need it for my deductible and then any expenses incurred because of the baby. So that came out of my paycheck. So that $2,000 came out of my paycheck. I get paid 26 times in a year, so it was about $76 every pay period that was going to come out. All right, so we're going to do some quick math here. So if I know my out-of-pocket max is $4,000 and I know I'm going to have $2,000 sitting in an account, I knew I was going to need to come up with $2,000 more dollars. So what I did is I started putting $170 every month into an account. Sorry, every pay period into an account to try to get myself up to that amount. So I'm also going to add, I think I called it like medical baby. And I started putting $170 every pay period. So that's $340. Sorry, it's been a long day. So $340 every month I was putting in. Now, I'm not going to include this on this chart because by the time that I went on maternity leave, I had already saved that money. But I just want you to keep in mind that that's something that I was planning for. So I wanted to make sure that when I got that hospital bill, I could pay it. So that kind of brings me back to this. So like I said, I'm now enrolled in a payment plan for the hospital. The only reason I have not paid this off is because of the fact that I want them to give me a cut. So I have the money sitting in an account, but I just haven't paid it yet. And at the end of the year, I'm hoping that they do the same thing they did to me last year, which is they send you a letter. They're like, if you call us, you can get between 20 and 30% off of your bill if you pay it outright before the last day of the year. So that's what I'm going to do to save your girl some money. All right, so I'm going to delete this for now because like I said, once you've had the baby, you're not going to be getting paid. So you probably don't have this extra money to put into the account. Another thing that I do every time I get paid is I put a certain amount of money in savings. But because I knew I was only going to be getting 60% of my pay, and only for 6 weeks. And for 6 weeks, I was going to go unpaid. I did not include that. So essentially, what we've done here is we have created what's absolutely needed. All right. So I'm also going to delete this for right now. Okay. I do have this, but I'm going to delete it. Okay. Because I wasn't paying that during my maternity leave. It didn't start till later. All right. So here we have our bills, our constant recurring necessity bills. All right. So the total is $3,572. Let me zoom out a little bit so we can see all of this at the same time. All right. Here's what we need on a monthly basis. Now, like I said, I'm going to be on maternity leave for 12 weeks, 3 months. So essentially, I needed $10,717.62 to get myself through maternity leave. Now, like I said before, my short-term disability was going to give me $1,000 for 6 weeks. Okay, 60% of my pay, or $1,000. It ended up being $1,000. So I was going to be getting $6,000 paid to me with nothing taken out of it, no taxes or anything. So I needed to supplement $4,717.62. All right, so you find out you're pregnant. You're lucky if you get 9 months. So that's the math I'm going to do. If you find out you're pregnant early and if you don't deliver early. So I needed to come up with 4717. So essentially what I did is I calculated how many pay periods I was going to have between the time I found out I was pregnant and my maternity leave ending. So that was 18 pay periods. So I'm going to divide 4717.62 divided by 18. All right, so essentially every pay period, because we're going to take that and we're going to divide by 18, and I needed to save about $263 a pay period. Okay, so what I started doing was I knew I had this money in my FSA account. So I needed to come up with the extra money. So again, you have 18 pay periods. So 2,000 divided by 18 is like $111. I think it was 170 because I was putting extra money in there because I wanted to buy stuff for the baby too. But anyway, so you're going to have to think about it that way. So I needed to save $263 monthly for mat leave, and I'm just going to say 112 for medical. This is just what I did. I mean, this is so that I was not stressed when it came time to be able to enjoy my postpartum, which is already stressful enough. Okay, guys. So this is what I did. I started saving money. I started working as much overtime as I could, and monitoring every dollar. If I had not been able to do this, if this had been something where, okay, I didn't have, because this is bi-monthly. I'll say bi-weekly. All right, so essentially, all right, so you need this bi-weekly, and oh gosh, you guys, it's been such a long day. $750 a month. I understand that's a lot. If I had not been able to save $750 a month, I would have started cutting things that I didn't need. So I'm going to go through here and I'm going to start saying what I need and what I don't need. All right, so this, sorry, I didn't mean to do that. This was not a necessity. Okay, we can cut that. I don't need doggy daycare. Again, not a necessity. And I would have gotten rid of Prime. And I would have cashed out my life insurance and gotten rid of that payment too. So essentially by doing that, I would have given myself $316 of those dollars. So this is what I did. So the first thing you need to do is, or it's the first thing that I would suggest that you do. I mean, you don't need to do anything. I'm just some girl on the internet. The first thing that I would suggest to do is look into an FSA account. Obviously, you could find out you're pregnant early in a calendar year where you can't change your benefits. And so that might not be applicable for you. But if not, find out what your deductible is for your health insurance, what your out-of-pocket max is, and what your benefits are for potentially maternity leave if you have any through your company or through your state. Find out what your required household bills are and how much you're going to need at a bare minimum, and then start saving, because it is going to make such a difference. You're going to be hurting, exhausted, stressed, anxious, and the last thing you're going to want to worry about is how you're going to afford food. So this is something that absolutely helped me, is planning in advance, finding out what benefits I had and how I needed to make adjustments. Hopefully that makes sense. So I think I'm just going to start there. I think that's a good place to begin. Finding out what your medical benefits are and finding out what your overhead is, and how to calculate how you can potentially save, what expenses you can cut. I could have cut further. I could have cut our food budget. I could have just not eaten dairy and had whatever my husband was eating, and I would have done that. And I have done that before. I could change my dog's dog food for a little bit. I could make adjustments. There's some things that I can't change, but some things that I can. And so I would have done that, or I would have worked more. Another thing that was a requirement prior to me going on maternity leave is I wanted to have our truck paid off. By the time that I went on maternity leave, I didn't have a truck payment. That was something that we really worked towards. And so right now my husband's not working, but at the time he was. And so we were putting basically all of our extra money towards the truck, so that I didn't have that $572 month payment on that vehicle. And the other thing that we did, which I'll go into next time, but this is the bare minimum, guys, remember, is that we knew that my husband was going to stay home for the first year of our baby's life. And so we started calculating, okay, how much money would you like to have on a monthly basis to spend taking the baby to do things, or gas money, or a subscription that you have, or whatever. The amount that we came up with was $500. And so he was going to be home for the first 12 months. And so $6,000 is what we wanted to save for him to be able to carry him through, so that I could just focus on our bills and not have to worry about, if he needed something. So that's what we have decided. I think this is a good place to end it, just because I don't want the video to be too long. But my first recommendation would just be, like I said, sitting down, figuring out what your insurance benefits are if you have a potential for an FSA, and then just calculating your basic necessities and how you can account for how much money you need for the amount of time you're going to take. You may live in a state like, I don't know, Massachusetts, and you get paid maternity leave, and that's great. Or you may have a short term disability that pays you 100% of your pay, which would also be great. So just kind of figure out what you have and calculate that monthly minimum, multiply it by how many months you're going to need it, and then divide by how much time you have between now and then to start saving. The earlier you start, the easier it's going to be. So, yeah, next time I will probably go a little bit into the medical bills that I acquired and our budget during maternity leave. So, how did it go? How much did I end up saving? Where did I owe money that I didn't expect to owe, or where did I break even, or where was it easier? We'll kind of go into that. But yeah, I'm gonna go hang out with my baby now and then make dinner. So I'll catch you in the next one. Bye.